All right, so you're getting ready for your book club meeting on From the New World. An excellent choice. This is one of those novels that starts in what seems like a perfect, peaceful utopia, and by the end, it makes you question the very definition of humanity itself. So let's deconstruct this incredibly complex and, let's be honest, terrifying world together.
So we see this entire story through the eyes of our narrator, Saki Watanabe, and she introduces us to her home, Kamitsu 66, a place that, at first glance, is a total paradise. You know, peaceful, green, a place where kids grow up completely safe and happy. Or, so it seems.
Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll explore this perfect but very fragile world Saki grows up in. Then, we're going to dig deep into the forbidden history they tried to bury. From there, we'll look at the specific mechanisms of control used to keep society in line. Then, we'll get into the big one, the nature of humanity. And finally, we'll look at the questions this all raises for our own world.
Okay, part 1. We're jumping 1,000 years into the future into this town called Kamitsu 66. It seems totally idyllic, right? A quiet farming society. And the only thing separating them from the dangerous world outside is a simple straw rope they call a holy barrier. Yeah, a rope. Now, the foundation of this whole society is a power called Cantus. And this isn't just bending a few spoons. We're talking godlike psychokinesis, the ability to change matter with your thoughts. And here's the kicker. Everybody has it. It awakens in all kids around the age of 12, and this one fact shapes their entire world, from their daily lives to their deepest fears.
But you immediately get a sense that something is deeply wrong here. See, kids are told stories about monsters called fiends and karma demons to keep them from wandering off. But the adult version of that story? It's terrifying. These aren't monsters. They're what humans with this power can become if they lose control.
And that fear is everywhere. This society is absolutely obsessed with control. Children are constantly being watched and tested. And if you're not good enough, if you can't control your Cantus, or if you just show signs of being a problem, you don't just get a bad grade, you vanish. And pretty soon, people start to forget you were ever even there.
So, this perfect, fragile world starts to completely fall apart when Saki and her friends go on a summer camping trip. They stumble upon a truth that their society is literally killed to keep buried for 1,000 years. They find this creature they think is a mythical beast, a false Minoshiro. But it's not an animal at all. It's a machine, a self-propelled library terminal from our time, and it holds the real, uncensored history of the world. And what a history it is. The machine reveals that Cantus didn't bring about some utopia. It unleashed a 500-year dark age that nearly wiped out humanity. PK users created brutal slave empires, bandits roamed the ruins, and a small group of scientists fought just to survive and figure out a way to stop the madness.
And this is where we get the novel's biggest, most shocking twist. Saki's world depends on this subservient, animal-like species called queer rats. But they aren't animals. They are the descendants of ordinary humans, people without Cantus, who were genetically altered by the victorious scientists so they wouldn't even be recognized as human anymore.
So how did those scientists make sure peace would actually last? Well, they didn't just change society. They changed human biology itself. They built safeguards right into our DNA to prevent another dark age from ever happening. They call it the genetic leash, and it has 2 parts. First, there's attack inhibition, which is a deep psychological block that makes it almost impossible to hurt another human. And as a backup, there's death feedback. If a PK user does kill a human, their own organs automatically shut down and they die too. It is literally mutual assured destruction built into their biology. But even that system isn't foolproof. To handle the rare kid who might become a fiend, the society has a ruthless culling process. Children who show dangerous tendencies are eliminated by these creatures called tainted cats. And then, using hypnotic suggestion, everyone, including their parents, is made to forget they ever existed.
So all of these systems, the genetic leash, the memory erasure, they're all built to enforce one simple, terrifying idea, a line in the sand. And this gets us to the novel's biggest question. Once you can rewrite DNA, what actually defines a human being? Society is split into 2 groups. On one side, you have humans, the PK users who are protected by their genetic safeguards. On the other, you have the queer rats. They're genetically human, but they've been engineered so they don't trigger those safeguards. They can be killed without any consequence, which makes them the perfect slave race. But the queerats are intelligent. They have complex societies, and they deeply resent being enslaved. Their leader, Yakamaru, frames their struggle perfectly. It's a fight for freedom against a power that has defined them as subhuman, just for its own convenience.
And the queerats find a devastating loophole in the system. They kidnap a human baby and raise it as one of their own. So this child grows up seeing queerats as family, and the PK users as the enemy. She becomes their messiah, a living weapon who can kill humans without triggering death feedback, because to her subconscious, she isn't killing her own kind.
Now, this whole brutal conflict, it's more than just sci-fi. The novel uses this world as a dark mirror, forcing every single one of us to ask some incredibly difficult questions about our own society.
The town of Kamisu 66 achieves total peace, but they do it by sacrificing truth, freedom, and the lives of anyone who threatens their stability. It makes you ask, what price are we willing to pay for safety? And is there a line that we should never, ever cross?
Think about it. The entire history Saki grew up learning was a complete lie, a fairy tale designed to keep things the way they are. It's a powerful reminder for us to question our own national myths and to ask who benefits from the stories we tell, and just as importantly, the ones we choose to forget. This really is the core of the whole book. The queerats are genetically human, but they're treated like vermin. It forces us to look at how we define us versus them in our own world, and the justifications we come up with for cruelty and exploitation.
Saki's final thought on her own species is, well, it's pretty chilling. After everything she's seen, she fears that humans are just doomed to forget their lessons. No matter how much pain we go through, the minute the tears are dry, we forget, and we repeat the same cycles of violence all over again.
And that leaves us with the novel's final, lingering question. From the New World, it gives us 0 easy answers. Instead, it just leaves us to wonder if our own species can ever really break these cycles and build a better future. A perfect, heavy question to bring to your next book club meeting.